Oui, bonjour, je m'appelle Dave Lemieux, je suis ici pour vous parler du Dave's Picks volume 55. C'est un concert complet du Zenith à Paris en 1990, le Tour d'Europe en 1990, en octobre, puis aussi le 1er novembre. C'est le nouvel Grateful Dead avec Bruce Hornsby et Vince Welnick. C'est un concert magnifique. Le Zenith, c'est un concert très petit, 6000 personnes. C'était pas Madison Square Garden ou Giant Stadium, quelque chose comme ça. C'était très petit, magnifique. Les deux concerts à Paris étaient magnifiques. Mais celui-ci, c'est un concert unique. Les chansons qu'ils ont jouées, Boîte de pluie, La ferme de Maggie, Les yeux du monde, Victime ou la crime, l'autre un. Il y avait tellement... Oh, you know what? I just realized some of you probably don't speak French, so I'm sorry about that. I'm going to start over. I wasn't even thinking. I've been working on this Paris Dave's Picks for so long that I've been kind of in French mode, so sorry about that. So I'm going to start over. So, Dave's Picks Volume 55. If you're watching this, you probably already know it's from the Zenith in Paris, from the second show of a two-night run on the Europe 72 tour, Europe 90, featuring shows in Sweden, in Germany, and France, and in London to end the 3 nights in London. This Paris show, so several years ago, 2015, 10 years ago, when we did the 30 Trips Around the Sun box set, we released the first night, October 27th, in that box set, simply stunning show. This show was given consideration as well. And we went with the 27th instead, knowing someday we'd hit up the 28th. And that's exactly what we're doing with Dave's Picks, volume 55. Hard to believe, 55. The Zenith was this tiny little place in comparison to most of the places they were playing in the US. They played a couple of small venues on the Europe tour. The place in Berlin was tiny, under 4,000, and the Zenith was about 6,500, and I believe Essen was about 7,000. Empire Pool, or Wembley Arena, I should say, at the time. In London now it's more like about 12 or 13,000, more like an arena, but still quite small. But boy, these Paris shows were something special. I remember we just kept looking around and we couldn't believe we were seeing the Dead in such a tiny place. With that in mind, I was staying at this hotel. I can't even remember where it was or what it was called, but we took the train out, and the first night is when we got our bearings. The second night is kind of when we settled in. My friend John Latunin was there, Terry Rowe. I'll tell you about John in a second as well. So the Grateful Dead, they play this incredible first night. They come for the second night. They open with Touch of Grey, and you know immediately. It's one of those shows that you know immediately it's going to be an incredible night of Grateful Dead music. There's a great box of rain. There is a great Maggie's Farm, where you get all 5 vocalists doing a verse, which I thought was just amazing. And then they ended the first set with something that none of us saw coming. It was a Bruce Hornsby song called Stander on the Mountain, which I knew from Bruce's repertoire, but I'd never expected the Dead to play it. That blew my mind. So the first set in the books, wonderful, wonderful show. The second set starts with one of the most wild and psychedelic versions of Victim or the Crime I had ever heard. It gets way out there, just remarkable. There's so much good music in this set. The Eyes of the World, The Estimated Prophet, the Uncle John's Band, one of my favorites. And this is, I'd mentioned Bruce Hornsby and Vince Welnick in the band. So you get this incredible moment of the 2 keyboard arrangement of the Dead, just wild. Drums in space, deep space. The band was certainly having fun. You're going to hear, I encourage you to listen to Drums in Space, because you're going to hear some sound effects that were unique and unlike any other from the era. Just really incredibly wild stuff. Coming out of space with this other one, beautiful Wharf Rat. I mean, this show is really top notch. And we had some room, and it's interesting because we had some room on it, so we've included music from the first night in London a couple of nights later on October 30th. And I remember that show very well because the sound wasn't great to start the show. It's a weird building. And by the middle of the first set, everything kind of clicked into place and everything started getting really, really good. And they ended up doing, I thought, an incredible show, but a bit under the radar because the next night, Halloween, Werewolves of London in London on Halloween was pretty special. Great Scarlet Fire, great Help Slip Franklins. And then the third night in London, which was very cool because most Americans who had gone over had already booked their flights home on November 1st by the time they added that show. And so place was half empty. It was a 12,000 seat place with only about 6,000 people in it. I'd never seen that for a Dead show like that. Just a really unique situation for sure. But the first night, under the radar, certainly worth hearing. So we've included 6 songs from that show. The end of the first set, another Bruce Hornsby song, Valley Road, a wonderful Let It Grow plus a jam to join into that Valley Road. And then the beginning of the second set, which is, I mean, I love Picasso Moon when it's good, and more often than not it is, and this one is one of the best. You're going to hear A Foolish Heart, A Looks Like Rain, and a huge version of Terrapin Station. So if you subscribe to it, you're not going to need to run out and get it because it'll show up in your mailbox sometime, I think the end of July, early August. If you didn't subscribe, this one is probably going to go pretty quickly, so do head over to dead.net if you're watching this, and you can pick it up over there. It's a really, I think it's a magnificent show. Sounds great. Dan Healy recording. I thought the band at this time sounded, both the performance-wise, of course, but the sound of the band, what they were playing, their equipment, just sounded great, clear. And this venue, I remember being in the taper section. I wrote the liner notes for this one, and I tell the story about the taper section and my friend Dan Ross. Oh, I mentioned John Latunin. So, way back, one of my kind of Grateful Dead mentors from Ottawa, John Latunin, he was at the shows. He was teaching in Tutume, Botswana. I remember this. And he was in Paris for the shows. And about a year after the shows, a few months after, he showed up at my house in Ottawa with 35 millimeter negatives, color negatives. He got front row of the show and took these with his big camera and took these incredible photos. I put them away in this, I mean, I'm an archivist, I've got an archive. I put them away, and as we were working on this, I remembered John's photos, of course. So I pulled out his negatives. I hadn't talked to John in almost 35 years, and then I tracked him down through Tim and Cynthia. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Cynthia, for hooking that up. And I got in touch with John, who I hadn't talked to in 35 years, and John, of course, was very happy to know that his photos would be used. So we've included a lot of John's photos from the front row, from the October 28th show. You're in for a treat on the photos. Really, really wonderful stuff. So John Latunin, it's great to be reconnected with you. Also, thanks for the use of your photos. A real treat for the fans to get to see that. So do head over to dead.net. Like I say, it'll probably sell out sooner than later because yeah, it's a good one. We haven't, you know what, actually, this is our first post-Brent Dave's Picks. We've done a few Brent shows from 90. We've done the Deer Creek shows and the Eugene show on June 23rd, but it's our first post-Brent Dave's Picks. So do check it out. It's really good. Bruce and Vince sound amazing. Like I say, the Maggie's Farm is very cool to hear because all 5 vocalists get a verse, and you hear the anticipation of the crowd knowing that, you know, Phil's going to sing his, and then Bruce, and then Vince. This is the first time on the Maggie's Farms in which they just started doing this arrangement right before this. It's the first time that Vince's solo voice had been heard at a Grateful Dead show, so that was very cool as well. So do check it out. So I'm going to turn off with my little camera thing, but thanks for watching. Head over to dead.net for all of the information. It'll all be on there. And I am going to, before I turn this off, actually, I'm going to bow out and I'm going to ask my camera assistant. We have a big crew here, as you can tell, hair and makeup, wardrobe, set. We had to get set design, and green screen, blue screen, whatever, to make this nice background. I'm going to ask my camera assistant to grab the camera, and before I shut it off, and do a pan of this beautiful lake. I'm going to step behind the camera, and they're going to do that.